Hi, my name is David Clark, and today on 06/12/2025, I'm going to be conducting assignment FTH 202. So please sit back and enjoy the lesson. Okay, so the next thing I would like to do is show you how to remove the side plate. The first thing you want to do is find the roll pin at the bottom of the grip. You want to get your block. You want to find a hole that lines up with so the roll pin falls into the hole. Now, if this is your first time doing it, it might take a hell of a good couple whacks to get that roll pin out of there. But once that roll pin's out, it will drop right into your hole. And then you just want to move that off to the side so it's not in the way. This will allow your pistol grip to be removed just like that right there. Now, once your pistol grip is removed, it will reveal 3 to 4 screws. So you want to start removing these screws. I'd like to start with the detent pin over here next to the trigger. And then once the detent pin is removed, then I'm going to move to the side pins. Now, if you're having trouble and you get all these screws out, uh, and you're having trouble trying to get this plate off, you might want to check for a fourth screw because there might be a fourth screw somewhere that you might just not be seeing. Now, once all your pins are unscrewed, if it's been the first time you took this apart, it might take a good couple whacks with something soft to be able to remove that side plate. But you don't want to pry it because that's bad for it and it can cause you to mess up your weapon. You just want to give it a good couple whacks until that side plate is removed. Okay, so now that we have the side plate removed, I want to take my punch right here. I'm going to use it as a pointer. And I'm going to point out a few of these, like the mainspring right here. This mainspring in the cycle of operations helps with the fire and cocking. When the hammer is in the cock position and the spring is compressed, the spring restores energy, will force the hammer forward and into the firing pin when released. The same forward pressure will retain the hammer in the cock position against the trigger's sear face, which is right up in here. Next, I want to talk about the mainspring center pin, located within the mainspring down here at the bottom. You can see a little bit. I'm sure you'll see it later on. But it also plays a role in the cocking and firing. The mainspring center pin transfers the mainspring energy to the hammer. Next is the mainspring retort, located under the mainspring and the mainspring center pin is the mainspring support where the mainspring goes into. Now, this mainspring report also plays a role in the cocking and firing. The mainspring support provides the backing for the mainspring to work against. I want to go over these three components just because they're all centrally located and easy to see. But okay, now that we got it this far, now I want to talk about the cycle of operations, starting with feeding. The cylinder rotates, positioning a fresh cartridge in line with the bore. The hand, driven by the trigger or hammer, engages the ratchet and cylinder, ensuring the proper index. The cartridge is already chambered for chambering in the revolver, unlike a semi-automatic firearm where it moves into the chamber. The cylinder stop locks the cylinder in place and prevents misalignment. During locking, the cylinder stop fully engages, preventing the rotation before firing. The transfer bar or hammer blocks the safety system to ensure operations. Firing. The trigger is pulled, causing the hammer to fall. The hammer strikes the firing pin, which ignites the primer. Pressure from the powder charge propels the bullet down the bore. During the unlocking, the recoil forces that initiate to unlock the unlocking phase. The cylinder stop may disengage depending on the firearm's design. During extraction and a double action, the shooter uh, actuates the ejector rod, pushing the spent cartridge rearward, just like that right there. During ejection, the spent casings are fully removed when the ejector rod is pressed. The star-shaped ejector engages multiple cartridges at once, clearing the cylinder. Now, during the cocking phase, the hammer resets for the next trigger pull. In a double action mode, pulling the trigger cocks the hammer and rotates the cylinder. In single action mode, the hammer must be manually cocked. This is the 8 steps in the cycle of operations for a revolver. Okay, so now that you understand the cycle of operations, next thing I want to do is remove every component up until the hammer, the hand, the transfer bar, the trigger, and the cylinder lock remain. So in order to do this, I need to remove the mainspring and the mainspring center pin. So what I want to do is cock the hammer back to the rear, take one of my paper clips, set it inside the hole right there. What this is going to do is allow when I move the hammer forward and for me to remove that pin out the back like that right there. Now that we got that mainspring and that mainspring center pin out with our little paper clip here, now if I remove this, the spring's going to shoot off the mainspring center pin. We don't want that to happen, so we're just going to leave that assembled and move that aside. The next thing I would like to do is I'm going to remove the yoke and the cylinder. And in order to do this is what I want to do is I want to press the thumb grip forward, the and then slowly just shake that yoke and that cylinder off. Then you get this nice cylinder and yoke together. Now I could take this down and break it apart by twisting the extractor rod assembly and pulling this apart, but I wasn't instructed to do that, so we're going to take the cylinder and yoke and set it aside for now. And that's how you do that. Now I'm going to remove the firing pin. So what I needed was some needle nose pliers. I removed the pin that was there in the holding in the firing pin. And now that firing pin should just fall out. But of course, the transfer bar is kind of in the way of that. So there we go. We got it out. There you go. That's how you remove the firing pin. Okay, so lastly for this part, what we're going to want to do is remove the thumb piece. So in order to do that, you're going to take your screwdriver, unscrew that screw on the thumb piece. That should just come off and you can set that aside. Now all that remains within this frame are the hammer, the hand, the transfer bar, the trigger, and the cylinder lock. That's all that remains within. Okay, so now we're going to just remove the rest of the stuff and ensure that this is stripped. So in order to do this, we want to make sure that the hand is rotated back out of the holder, and then this should pop out. This is going to remove your spring and your pin from your trigger, allowing you to lift up the hammer, remove the hammer. We're going to set those aside. And now this should allow you to remove the transfer bar, set that aside. And then the last two things, now we're near the end. So the last things I got to remove for this are the bolt spring, the bolt and the bolt spring. So basically what you want to do is hold that back and ensure your bolt goes in your spring, don't get released. So once you remove that, the last thing I got to remove is the trigger and the cylinder stop. So basically what you want to do is ensure that cylinder stop is lined up. Remove your trigger, then your cylinder stop should easily just come out. And that would be a complete strip running just like that right there.